I'm in a wee bit of two minds. I'm not your standard conspiracy theorist. So, on the one hand, I'm thinking, well, I don't know what you've been saying. But at the same time, we don't know about Assange, what the story is. He's been accused, and I say this, he has been accused. Nothing has been proven yet. He's been accused of sexual crimes in Sweden.
Not even that, mate.
Up again him because of WikiLeaks.
Yeah, but the thing is, they dropped the charges.
Sorry, Ramsey, trying to come in there?
Yeah, they dropped the charges in Sweden, so that's not even an issue.
They're thinking about taking them back up again.
Oh, well.
Now, on the one side, what I'm thinking is, well, I don't know much about this guy Assange, other than what we see, what he'd done. He might be a good guy, he might be a bad guy, I don't know. On the other side, what I'm also thinking is, when I see the pictures that we saw, the way he was dragged out of the embassy, he wasn't leaving the embassy of his own accord. He was dragged out. We've been seeing accusations made by the Ecuadorian embassy that apparently he left a pigsty behind him. Again, I have no idea if this is right or if this is not right. We know that if he is deported to the US, he'll be locked up for donkey's years.
Yeah.
Whether he will receive a free trial, a fair trial, is, to my mind, at the very best, questionable. It's all very strange, and what I've been finding really strange is the UK politicians in all of this. We've got UK politicians on the one side saying, well, if he's going to be deported, deport him to Sweden first to face his allegations of sexual harassment. I'm not even sure if it goes as far as rape, but you know, whatever the crimes are, that is more important. And we've got the Tories saying, well, he's now facing British justice, and British justice is the best we've ever got, and he's going to get a fair trial and a fair hearing. But I'm just thinking, right. So, I mean, I'm very sceptical about it. It's
Can I
not
say something then?
All right.
What you're saying about the stuff with America, if it gets extradited to there, I think, see, because you have the ongoing issues of the way he left, well, no left, he was dragged, as you rightly put it, out the embassy. You have the Americans that want him for the WikiLeaks stuff, and you have the Swedish government wanting them on whatever may be the charges over there. Do you think that maybe then the international community should come together to make sure that it's that whatever proceedings may happen, that they happen correctly, since there seems to be multiple interests in Julian Assange?
I mean, it would be a good idea.
Definitely.
The question for me would be, where could that happen? Because
The Hague?
again, we've got lots of accusations. We know that for a fact. But they are accusations, and you still have to go with the main principle of law: innocent, presumed innocent until proved guilty.
Exactly.
Now, the whole WikiLeaks thing, the accusations in Sweden, is there a connection? As I say, I'm not one for conspiracy theories. I'm usually the first person that if you have somebody coming out on social media putting a conspiracy theory forward, I'm the first one to say, aye, come on, get real. But it's very strange. So, it's just the timing of it all. He's, on the one side, we know the Americans won. I mean, that's out of any question, we know that. There's a situation in Sweden. Obviously, if he was convicted of serious sexual assault and locked away for a large number of years, I'm sure the Americans would be quite happy. They wouldn't care whether he was sitting there or in North Carolina, South Carolina, Guantanamo, or wherever they decide to put him. You would be taken out of business. So I mean, I can't see whether this guy is a good guy or a bad guy. I can't say whether he has done what he's accused of or not done what he's accused of, other than the fact that we know the WikiLeaks story. And I'm just thinking, is there some kind of international mechanism working here? And if that were to be the case, where could he get the trial under fair circumstances if there is some kind of conspiracy going on in the background? Raymond, you suggested The Hague. Why would that be fairer?
I know. I'm just saying that because all of the international, eyes are on The Hague when it comes to international courts, basically, and that's why I'm saying that. I'm not necessarily because I think it's the safest place or whatever, but all the eyes when we talk about international law, somehow they always look at The Hague, and there are various international courts there for various, like for instance, there's one for former Republic of Yugoslavia. There is there are like 3 or 4 in The Hague alone, international courts. So I'm just saying that because of that fact.
But I mean, again, this is a big if. I mean, I'm talking very hypothetically here. If there is some kind of international conspiracy, and maybe the Swedish charges are part of that, would he then get a fair trial in The Hague? You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
International conspiracy, if maybe international countries across the world are under the thumb of the US, because we know, again, the US want him done because he exposed them. We know that. Whatever else he might have done, or might not have done. Again, there's been various things on Twitter, other things he's done in the past, which were maybe not quite so laudable as exposing the US military. But if there is some kind of international collaboration on this, and just say, the US say to Sweden, going to do something there, and the Swedes go, aye, all right, well, they're trumped up rate cards. We'll get them on that. Would that then have a fair trial at The Hague even? If
Good point.
like that is happening.
Good point.
Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm far from it. I'm the first person that turns around and says conspiracy theories, they tend to be based on paranoia. But there's just something in it all where I'm saying it doesn't quite all look right.
Yeah, you have a good point there, mate. Let me tell you that. And do you think it's just Assange that they are after, or basically to ground WikiLeaks as a whole, maybe? Because the thing is, Pat directed me to more of a meme basically than an article that was on. I shared it on my timeline as well. So basically, as a text, in their entire history, WikiLeaks has not had to retract a single story as fake news. They have won every court case that challenged their information, every single one. No mainstream media network can truthfully make the same claim. Explain this effing nonsense. So
yeah, again, they've not had to retract anything for fake news, but the whole question is where does it start and where does it end? And to be perfectly honest, I mean, one of the reasons that I admit to not knowing quite so much about the Julian Assange case is because I'm thinking that's just like way over my head. There's a lot of things going on there. I wouldn't say over my head, but just over and above what I need to be thinking about. Because, I'll be perfectly honest, my personal life at the minute, my personal mission at the minute is twofold. It's the Brexit scenario, and it's also the Scottish independence scenario. And I can appreciate other folk have maybe a bit more time in their hands and are able to spend more time getting involved in the material, having their opinions. I think that's fair enough. I'm back at work now. I was off work for the best part of 9 months. I don't have quite so much time to go do my researching. I've got to say, it stinks a wee bit. That's my gut reaction, doing a wee bit of research. For me, it's not necessarily a topic which I would say is at the top of my mind, because I've got more important, more immediate considerations on my mind. Although, again, more important, if there is some kind of international thing going on, then it affects all of us and we need to be made aware of it.
Definitely.
I think the thing that sticks out for me, though, is, and quite honestly, I used to dabble quite a lot on and off WikiLeaks to see what stuff was going down, because it was like every day you were seeing scandal after scandal after scandal, from geopolitical for the States getting their fingers in a lot of pies, the Panama Papers, and that's the thing that concerns me. If this isn't a conspiracy and this is legitimate, ponds being moved, even more so with, like I says, the £4.2 billion that have just been granted to the Ecuadorian government. I mean, talk about time, and that was just shoving it in your face. But I think ultimately, without trying to be any biased or emotional attachment to it, it's a sad day for freedom of press.
Totally
it's a
agree.
sad day for wanting to be exposing government and international foul play. And you've got to look at Edward Snowden. He went straight to Russia. If that doesn't tell you, if that doesn't speak volumes for a man who worked within the CIA, you know, was born and bred in America, that kind of speaks volumes about the faith that he has in his own system to protect him. And if he's extradited to the United States, I think it'll not be long before we see the headline Assange suicide or something along those lines. But again, there's a lot of things that need to be ironed out that will need to come out as facts, assault charges and anything else. But it's probably worthwhile keeping our eyes on going forward.
Definitely.
Definitely worth keeping our eyes on going forward. And I'd like to come in here with maybe a topic a bit more close to home that I'm sure folk have noticed. We had a court case just the last few weeks, Wings against Kezia Dugdale. And what we basically saw was that the whole story, if people haven't been following it, Wings tweeted a jibe against Oliver Mundell, which Kezia Dugdale understood as being homophobic, and thereby in her Daily Record column accused Stuart Campbell of homophobia, on which Stuart Campbell took Kezia Dugdale to court, saying that is not right, defamation. The judgment that came out today was strange. Basically, the judge says Stuart Campbell is not homophobic. The tweet wasn't homophobic. But Kezia Dugdale, in her column, believed it was homophobic and had her opinion, and was therefore in order to make that point. Now, there are 2 points in this. First of all, I think back to the Carmichael case, where, again, Carmichael was taken to court by 4 independence activists and accused of lying, and basically the judge says, aye, he lied, but it was okay. That's the one thing. Where is the border with freedom of speech? And that's why this ties into the Assange scenario. Where can you say something on Twitter and Facebook and all social media and firmly believe it, and it's not slander? And where is the line where it becomes slander or defamation? And thirdly, as a by the by, interestingly, the unionist media are reporting it as Kezia Dugdale won the case. She didn't win the case. The case was effectively thrown out by the judge, saying there is no case to answer. Now, that is not a victory. Effectively, the judge backed up Wings Over Scotland in all the points, but basically just says, well, because Kezia thought believed it, it was all right. So, I mean, we're getting into very grey area, getting very grey legal area, where you just think, what can you say, what can you not say, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
I think that's, though, a culture that's been adopted through narratives being put out there by mainstream media and politicians. I mean, you've seen politicians being, the public turn around and calling, I think there's a politician in England that got branded a Nazi, and she wanted to take the chap to court. If he feels that someone's acting a Nazi, then that's his opinion. Does it mean that he's right? No. But that's his opinion. He should have the belief to express that and say what's on his mind. The dangerous thing that I find with certain tools, whether you want to call them freedom of speech control, you want to call it political correctness, I just think it's a tool out there deliberately to shut us up from what's really going on. You know, and that's the first I've heard of this, Colin, the Wings Over Scotland case, Kezia Dugdale. The thing is, I think there is a very fine line with freedom of speech in saying what you think and turning around and calling someone a gay slur, actively saying, I think Kezia Dugdale is A, B and C. You know, if you're turning around and saying that, then you're attacking her for that specific reason. And you shouldn't insult someone like that. But what we do have here in Scotland, and I'm pretty sure you have it in the Netherlands and in Germany, where if someone says something that's honest and it's their opinion, but it's not actually attacking any individual, someone wants to take offence to it.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous culture, because what effectively you have there is you'll have a day that will come very soon where people will not be able to express themselves. And
exactly.
The day you do that, your freedom and the democracy goes out the window. That's when you come under a silent dictatorship.
Exactly. It's the same.
Absolutely, Colin. If I can just jump in there. Exactly what you're saying there, Colin. I take your point, and I'm with you. Freedom of speech is one thing. So, in the one sense, you know, maybe it wasn't quite so bad the way the judge ruled City. He's led very muddy waters, because the question is, where do you draw the line? Now, in Germany, you have a law against Holocaust denial. Holocaust denial is an actual crime in Germany. So if I turn around and say to you, the Holocaust didn't happen, they could pull me up in front of court. Now, that's the one thing. But again, just going on the judge's judgment today, saying that this was a fairly held opinion. We've seen lots of racist remarks. We've seen lots of homophobic remarks. We've seen lots of anti-Semitic remarks, Islamophobic remarks made by various elected politicians. councillors, MPs over the last years. And we are very quick to call them out and say this is disgusting. And it is right. I mean, don't get me wrong. If somebody says to me, take the best example, the best known example, Boris Johnson post boxes. I mean, you have to call that out. You have to say that is racist, that is Islamophobic. Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line between saying this is just bad taste, this is a possibly fairly held opinion, which I totally disagree with, and where do you get to the stage where it becomes a crime? Going back to Hitler salutes. We had again another case today. I think it was the Crystal Palace goalkeeper, some goalkeeper with one of the English football teams, was up on Instagram doing a Hitler salute. There was an FA inquiry into it. If you'd done that in Germany, you'd been pulled up in court because you're not allowed to do that job. Okay, different rules in the UK. The judge in that court case said, we think he was raising his right arm, he was putting his finger over his mouth because he was trying to gain the attention of his mate over the room, and he was raising his hand. It was innocent. He genuinely didn't know what a Hitler salute was, and thereby we have to keep him. And see, we're getting to such great muddy waters. I think we're going back to what you said. We are going to get to a stage where something along the line, we are going to be that fear of saying something that we don't quite know, are we allowed to say it or not allowed to say it, that we're going to end up getting shut up.
Can I just quickly say, this isn't going to be popular, right? But it's trying to be neutral as possible on it. And again, I can't say anything biased or get emotionally attached to things, right? See, if people are doing things like that, or people have like, for example, people don't believe the moon landing was real. Are we going to start locking people up because they don't believe the Americans went to the moon? Are we going to start locking people up because they think that we're ruled by lizards? Are we going to start locking people up because they believe in Adolf Hitler, or they believe in Joe Stalin, or they believe in Donald Trump? I think it's dangerous. There's a definition with acting in a way that might be socially distasteful to a way that actually justifies going to court and being dealt with the right way. And I think in certain grounds you have to nip it in the bud. But there's a lot of cases where it's been took out of proportion. For example, like the guy that taught his dog to do the thingy salute, the Adolf Hitler salute. That guy was took to court. Now, he turned around and says that was basically to get back at his ex-girlfriend because it was like their dog or something like that. I remember reading something briefly about it because it was on the news. Well, fair enough, that's a dog, that's not going to harm anyone. But there needs to be an element of realism, because who defines what's distasteful and what isn't? Who defines what's criminal and what isn't? Because whether it's myself, whether it's Shane, whether it's yourself, Colin, whether it's MD else, we're all going to have different opinions. We're all going to have different ideologies, different religious beliefs, different mindsets on things. So do we allow someone who is basically non-identity to absolutely anything to make these decisions? Are we going to have a decision maker that's going to be slightly pro-for or something, or maybe a wee bit on the anti-approach? I don't know what to say, but I do know this. It's dangerous times that we're living in when it comes down to expression, because I had a conversation, yesterday, the day before, about the Orange Walk. And it was in Glasgow. There was an Orange Walk that went through the bit of the barras, and there was a priest that got spat on. Now, the Orange Walk have come out and says they're going to reroute so that they're not walking past the chapel, because it's coming up to the time of the year where the kids make their communions and christenings and things like that. Now, a lot of people in comments on this thread were saying ban the Orange Walk. And I do agree that there is a lot of idiots that follow the Orange Walk. But if you ban one march, you have to ban them all, as far as I'm concerned. Because that's you allowing a back door in for future, for the government and councils to turn around and say, well, you're not having your protest there, you're not having your march there, you're not having your gathering there. Whether it's religious, whether it's political, or whether it's to raise awareness for events, the minute you start doing that, you leave yourself open to a can of worms.
Yeah, I got a point there, mate.
I agree absolutely, Colin. Raymond, do you want to come in quickly? Because I've got something to come back on. And
Yeah.
just...
Well, I've got 2 examples of people calling me out for names, and and there are people that get angry about that or take them to court in a defamation case or whatever. But I'm saying, well, I know who I am, so if they want to think or say that I'm a certain way, bollocks to that. But for instance, I am opposed to Israel, and I've been called an anti-Semite. And I'm not anti-Jewish, I am anti-Israel, and that's a completely different thing. But all of a sudden, I'm an anti-Semite. At one point, at my old place, we drove out of the street, and then on the corner, another car with a black person came into the street and didn't want to go back so we could pass and they could get in. No, we had to move back. And then when we said, no, you're just on the corner, just go back, then all of a sudden I'm a racist. Stuff like that. If you want to say that, go right ahead. I don't care. And so what I'm actually saying is, you can make a defamation case on it. If it goes too far, you might have a point. But if somebody thinks that about you and you know it not to be true, just leave it. It just, I don't know. It just adds to the whole aggravation of the situation, and it doesn't serve you any purpose to do that in my book.
Amen, mate. I think that's actually pretty important nowadays. Like, I don't advocate for racists, and I don't advocate for people that want to go out and hurt other people. But what I will strongly stand for people is having the right for them to say their points, believe in what they want to believe. I mean, we're living in a time where, like you're saying, you speak out against Israel, you're anti-Semite. You speak out about certain events, like for example, terrorism. You're an Islamophobe. I mean, I'll tell you a story actually very quickly. I've got a neighbour that used to live next to us for Afghanistan, and quite frankly, up there with my top 3 neighbours that I've ever had. There's been a lot of Scottish people that's lived next to me that been quite frankly arseholes, putting it nicely. These people, fantastic people, came in, used to actually make a lot of good food, send some in to me. Didn't you? I like a curry or two. Great people, and I actually had to defend them because they were getting a wee bit of unsavoury behaviour thrown at them, slurs, and people coming up and throwing stuff at the windies just because of a different country. I won't stand for that kind of crap where I live. But then again, if these people want to come here and live, they want to follow whatever religion, that's their right in this country. We can't have hypocrisy where you can turn and say, your right is less than my right. If you champion freedoms, you champion freedoms for everybody. And that's what a lot of people kind of lose sense with, because like that, they're very quick to throw slurs at you. Racist, anti-Semite, xenophobe, bigot. Stand tall. Exactly. Stand proud. You know who you are. Exactly. Don't let slurs define you.
Amen. Yeah. Colin, before I...
Can I just give a couple of shout-outs
to
folk at Facebook?
Oh, that's what I wanted to tell you. Go right ahead, mate. Go right ahead.
Prepared. I'm just winging it here a wee bit. There's one point I still want to come back in with what Colin said, but Yeah, shout out to the folk on Facebook.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, go
Yeah.
for it. If you prepare it, go for it.
Yeah. Well, I would just like to say hi to everyone watching us on Facebook. Tina Yuneman, Kelly McLean, our own Ian Leckerby, William Forbes. That's the names that I can see. Some good points. Kelly McLean, for instance, Israel is up to no good with America. Well, that's a given. And she also said, I think that some governments can pretty much do anything at the moment. Well, just look at the Tories and you know she's right. Yeah, I would like to and Ernie Russ just popped on. I would like to ask everybody if you want something discussed or if you want to partake in the discussion, if you want on the show, please let us know. I would also like to say hi everybody watching us on Independence Live on various social medias, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and on of course on the site. We're there till I think till 10, and then you can then continue following us on our Facebook page. Colin.
Yeah. Another quick shout out to Alistair Watson, John Nicholson, watching us via the Independence Live Facebook page. Again, there's lots of platforms we are being broadcast on at the minute, so if we haven't mentioned you, it's not personal, we just can't keep up with all the different platforms. But to go back to what Callum was saying just before about freedom of speech and where do you draw the line? We had our first demonstration and March for Indy in Berlin just over a year and a half ago. And it was very symbolic because we actually were able to have a rally outside the Reichstag, outside the German Parliament. Now, the reason we were able to do that is because under German law, freedom of demonstration is enshrined in the Constitution. And so you have the right to make your opinions known. And with all the discussion we've been going about here, I mean, we've actually been talking for over half an hour about the same topic. I think it's very important to define freedom of opinion, freedom of demonstration, where, as Raymond, as you said, we might not agree with them. Again, maybe going back to what the judge said in the Wings Dugdale case today, there is this freedom to make your opinion known. If we disagree with the opinion, fine, we can call them out. So if we see somebody coming up with Islamophobic, anti-Semitic, homophobic, racist comments, it is our right to call them out. Do we take that to defamation?
No.
I'd put a big question mark there.
Exactly. I totally agree.
It's very fair. But I think on that note, I think when it comes down to the Assange and the freedom of speech, I think it's one of those ones we've covered near enough everything. We could probably still go all night, but I'm a wee bit cautious at the time. I kind of want to move things on a wee bit towards the EU elections that are coming up with the Joker himself, Mr. Farage. And what's your thoughts on that, and what potential outcomes can you see happening over the next duration, the campaign that's going to be happening with that?
Well, I don't see anything happening with Farage. He's the biggest muppet I think there is, next to Boris Johnson probably. I mean, those two are the main reason the whole Brexit thing came about. And as soon as the referendum results were in, they left, they quit, and that tells you what they are about. So what I think of Nigel Farage. Don't even get me started. It's just the biggest muppet there is. And we have some of those guys here as well. In the Netherlands, you have them everywhere. They basically only say stuff to get attention and to get people going. You know, and like for instance, here in the Netherlands, we have Geert Wilders. That guy only says this is wrong. He doesn't say what he wants to change and how he wants to change it. He said this is wrong, and people just react to that. Sometimes you don't hear from him for quite a lengthy amount of time. Then when he's not in the news that often, then he makes a ludicrous comment and everybody's all over him. And that's just him getting attention again. And that's all Nigel Farage is doing as well, in my book.
Sometimes it does come across a bit like a provocateur agent. You know, these guys, these populists that feed on buzz terms that I think we live in a culture of insecurities. People are unsure about jobs, people are unsure about pensions. There is a lot of issues that's wrong within the UK government. There is a lot of issues that's wrong in the European Union. And I think what ultimately we've got here is we've got a case of Neros that just want to watch the world burn instead of actually addressing the real problems. And you guys will know, I've said pretty much I voted to leave the EU because of the European hierarchy. I don't believe in it. And I mean, you look at Paris and Catalonia, there's other things that's going on in the European Union which I think so many people are really needing help, and the European Union that doesn't exactly work for everybody, and that's a big thing for me. But what I don't like at the same time is people that's inciting fear and a bit of madness to people to try and confuse them. I think if people are going to be making decisions, they should be making it on clarity and facts.
Agreed.
Doesn't do that. And that's why I call him the Joker. It doesn't matter how sad or how serious the situation is. You always see him laughing. He must be the happiest guy on the planet. I've never seen him angry or upset. He's always laughing. And I think the European elections coming up, for Scotland, as a UK perspective, I find it rather pointless. Because if you're that adamant in leaving the European Union, as our Sam Cooke would say, they should be looking to do the Sinn Féin approach and just send them there to take the seats. They should just be making their point clear and going, no, this is how it is. But we're not seeing that. We're seeing these people that are going to go back to Brussels, that are going to continue to take a wage. I think if they're as serious as what they are, they would turn and say, we're not taking part in the European elections, and we're going to go ahead with Brexit. But I ultimately don't think you will see or hear anything along those lines.
As always, I've got about 37 things to say on this topic. You're not going to be surprised. I'll try and get through before midnight. That's this, guys. First, shout out to Kate Ann McLean on the Facebook page, reacting to Ryman's comments about Nigel Farage being a muppet. He is a fool. England needs to restart Parliament, has wrenched the dogs. The EU are boking that he might be back. I think Nigel Farage is... I don't think the EU Parliament are boking about Nigel Farage being back. I think they're just banging their heads against the desks, thinking, oh God, we've got to put up with him for another 6 months or so again. He is, if you watch the European Parliament debates, nobody takes him seriously because he is a charlatan. He is a charlatan. He has applied for German citizenship so that he can retain the rights of freedom of movement he is denying to millions and millions of young folk. Nigel Farage is a ballbag.
He's got that uncle that shows up at the family parties. He's just that annoying prick
He's
that
not even
tell us stories.
He's not. I'm trying to keep it civil.
He would be a good one for spitting image.
There's a lot of phrases I could use, but I will refrain. As the European elections, I am looking forward to them for two reasons. First of all, under Theresa May's plan, I would no longer be an EU citizen. So I would not be able to vote in the EU elections in my chosen home country. And now it looks like I will be. So I'll be able to vote for politicians who will look to putting their case forward for things that are important to me in my home country. So I'm actually quite happy about that. The whole thing about the European elections is, of course, will that actually happen in the UK? Because, of course, we all know that if by the 22nd, 23rd of May, Theresa May gets a deal through and the UK leaves the EU, there will be no EU elections in the UK. There will be no EU elections for me in Germany as a UK citizen in Germany by that stage either. So basically, if Theresa May gets a deal through, I will be disenfranchised. Tory policy, they like disenfranchising folk. They don't like EU citizens voting in the EU referendum. They don't like folk living abroad voting for them. They don't like folk voting. Tories are not big in democracy. But be that by the side, we have, with the EU elections coming up, and I think most folk expect that Theresa May won't get her deal through by the 23rd of May, and so there will be EU elections in the UK and also for UK citizens in the European Union. 3 points. First point, Brexit Party. We have lots of populist movements across the whole of Europe. Raymond, you were talking about your friends in the Netherlands. We've got the AFD in Germany, who Jacob Rees-Mogg likes to share quite happily on Twitter. We've got Orban in Hungary. We've got the Austrians, we've got the Italians. There are populist movements rising all over Europe.
I actually have a second one here in the Netherlands, a guy called Thierry Baudet. I don't know if you...
As you said, Raymond, they come up with sound bites.
Yeah, exactly.
To get the attention.
Exactly.
And this is what we saw specifically with the Brexit Party launch just last week. Wall-to-wall coverage on the BBC. It was all over the place. This is Nigel Farage's new Brexit Party. I'm surprised they haven't cloned him yet. That he can take up all 5 seats in question time when it comes back after the Easter break. Because Nigel Farage, he gets a platform on the BBC, which is just in absolutely no relation to his democratic influence. No. If you go in the votes, even the votes UKIP got in the last EU elections, his appearances in question time are more. So there's no impartiality here. You have the mainstream media legitimising Farage, legitimising his sound bites, making him popular, and then you get opinion polls coming out today saying that the Brexit Party, UK-wide, might be looking at getting 25% of the vote. As a surprise. Well, with all that free publicity, what do you bloody expect? He's getting promoted by the state broadcaster. And that is one thing that is a disgrace. Second thing about EU elections. EU citizens living in Scotland have to be aware, if, as we expect, the EU elections do come about, then you are also entitled to vote in your home country, in the UK, in Scotland. But you must register by the start of May. So you've got about 10 days, 2 weeks to register. All of the Germans for Scottref Twitter feed have shared various links how you can register. Get in touch with us via direct message on the page. If you are an EU citizen living in Scotland or the rest of the UK and you want to vote in the EU elections in May, register. If you don't know how to, get in touch with us. We will tell you what you need to do. That is very important because you won't necessarily automatically be on the voting list. And these EU elections are going to be a mini people's referendum. You can say what you like, that's the way they're going to be interpreted. So we need to get out there and make sure that the vote goes for Europe. Callum, I appreciate you might not want to agree with me on that. That's fair enough. But this is our chance not only to show our affinity with Europe, but also in Scotland to show our desire for a Scottish independence referendum. Even if you don't like the EU, but you want Scottish independence, consider voting for a pro-independence party. SNP, the Greens, I don't know if Solidarity are putting candidates up, but vote for a Scottish independence party. Because one thing we know full well is that in the midst of all this Brexit fustigator, if the Tories were by some miracle to get 40% of the vote in Scotland, that would be spun as a vote against Scottish independence. So it is important the EU elections get out there, get the turnout out there, use it as a sort of mini referendum, a pre-referendum, and vote for independence supporting parties in Scotland. That is really important. And I say, if you're an EU citizen and you don't know how to get registered, get in touch with us, we'll put you in the right way. The third point I'd like to make about the EU elections is that we don't quite know what's going to happen if Theresa May's discussion with the Labour Party are going to come to some agreement between now and then. I don't believe it. I'm also not convinced if Labour aren't looking at the opinion polls and thinking, we're going to be doing a wee bit better than the Tories at the EU elections, so let's get the EU elections out of the way, and then it'll strengthen our hand. More delaying tactics. They are not going to come to an agreement in this Parliament. It's just not going to happen. The only near majority you have at Westminster right now is for some kind of customs union, which is the worst of all scenarios, whether you're pro-Brexit or anti-Brexit, because that makes the UK a rule taker with no say in making the rules. So as long as the two major parties at Westminster are at loggerheads, and I wouldn't put it past the Labour Party to draw out negotiations so that we have the EU elections, so that they can get maybe 3% more of the vote than the Tories do, and say, oh look, folk vote for us. But on what policy? There is no clear Labour policy. So again, my plea to you, in Scotland, whatever they're doing at Westminster, when we get the EU elections coming up in May in Scotland, we all get out there. They're important. It's no stay-at-home election. We get out there, we get a turnout, and we all vote for pro-independence parties. And I'm an SNP member, but I really couldn't care less if you vote SNP or Green. vote for an independent supporting party and reinforce the mandate for a Scottish independence referendum, which is already triple locked. Let's make it quadruple locked, and then go to Theresa May and say, now is the time.
All right.
Sorry, was I a bit violent there when I banged it?
No! Oh, we know. Now you can be, mate. We can't hear you, Callum.
You hear me now?
Yeah, can hear you now.
I said I was expecting a steel chair as well, but that's But see, right,
My table is still stunned.
can I ask you just two very quick questions? See what we're seeing in Europe right now, and I think, speaking with common sense, there's quite a lot of countries that are so disjointed socially, the communities are divided. We are seeing quite a lot of populist parties, not just in Europe, but across the world, kind of on the rise. And a lot of the talking points of these populist movements, immigration seems to be a driving factor for them. There's no putting it in a fancy dress. That is one of the fabrics of what it is. The second one, this is just me from my understanding and watching stuff and reading things, is a lot of people actually feel that their own governments are not taking their country and the natives seriously enough. A lot of people seem to think that they're losing what the country's identity is. So, are these people right? Because for as long as I've been watching politics, I've never seen a rise of so many populist parties coming at the one time across a continent as fast as what we've seen in Europe. Do you think maybe that there's internal issues that need to be addressed by the independent countries with the European Union to try and resolve these issues, so that people therefore don't fall into a Farage type of character, or an AFD, or an Alternative for Ireland, or these sort of parties that kind of want to stamp out any people really coming to the country as such?
Absolutely. I mean, the EU is not perfect.
No.
I don't think any of us, whether we are pro-EU or anti-EU, would say the EU is perfect. But it is doing a job. I would say it's doing a better job than any, for example, European alliances we had in the 1910s, 1920s, 1930s, because then we all ended up being at war with each other. You're right, immigration is one of the major topics, and we've spoken a lot about how we were all very shocked about the way the EU treated Greece a few years back.
Oh, yeah.
And how the EU has been totally silent, or on the main silent, for example, about Catalonia. And I'd be the first person as a EU, as somebody who is pro-EU, to say that those are two issues where the EU has not been fit for purpose. I'll bring in a third example, immigration. We had the situation in 2015 where we had this big refugee, I'll call it, for want of a better word, crisis, which has effectively created a lot of what we're seeing now. We had literally millions fleeing war-torn Syria, war-torn Yemen, coming into the EU. Now, again, like her or not, Angela Merkel was the one EU leader who stood up and says, let them in.
She was.
we will help them.
She absolutely was.
She was the only one. She is getting panned for it. She lost a lot of support for it in the last elections. The rise of the AFD is, at least in part, down to the influx of refugees, without a shadow of doubt, because when you have a country which has its own problems, you need, for those folk, a scapegoat. And the scapegoat is never your own government. The scapegoat is always someone else, the incoming. And that's why the AFD in Germany, and although I don't follow it quite so much in other European countries, I suspect it's similar in other European countries, that if I'm in a bad situation, if I can't get a job, if I'm struggling to make ends meet, and I see this guy with a different colour skin down the road doing alright and getting help from the government, it's their fault. We love the scapegoat. And I think that sorry, can I just quickly finish my point, Colin? The refugee crisis, the EU failed as well, because we have a Dublin Agreement which says that the EU, refugees coming in, applying for political asylum or for refugee status, they should be registered in the first country they arrive. That system fell down. That system equally is not fit for purpose, because it means the border states of the EU are screwed, and countries in the middle, like Germany, France, Luxembourg, Austria, I say, well, you went to our neighbours first, you know our problem. So again, that's why what Angela Merkel did was very big, very strong, hasn't made her life any easier, but there should have been an EU-wide agreement in how this influx of folk fleeing civil war in Syria could be maybe in some way distributed. Sounds bad, but in some way resettled in various EU countries where they can then maybe make a better life. And let's just not forget, the UK government came out and says, we're not taking anybody on. All we realise, we'll take 20,000 on over 5 years. 20,000 in 5 years. You probably had 20,000 way back 2015. You had probably 20,000 in a fucking hour coming into Germany. And Angela Merkel says, come in, we'll help you, we'll see how we help you. So, I mean, that was a disgusting decision by the UK government. And I do believe that at the moment, Scotland, which, again, the Scottish government at the time says, definitely, we will help, we will help. I think Scotland takes in a higher proportion of refugees and asylum seekers compared to the population in the UK than it would, strictly speaking, have to on a mathematical formula. And that's what makes Scotland. Scotland welcomes folk. And as you say yourself, Colin, you've met the folk. They're no bad folk. They're no bad folk. They're just in a situation where they're trying to just try and get away from getting the bombs falling them every 5 minutes.
We can hear you, mate.
Feeling there?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I think I've got a new phone. I think I keep covering the speaker.
No worries, mate.
Everybody does love a scapegoat, but see, fundamentally, see if you actually look at Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, even Libya, if it's that right, European countries could have had an opportunity to prevent that from happening. But they didn't. They joined the American and Israeli consortium in dropping bombs on winds.
Amen to that.
Overthrowing leaders that wouldn't probably bend the knee.
You reap what you sow.
I don't have a problem as such with people. For example, I've got a boy, as you know, he's 2. If there was war that broke out in Scotland tomorrow and the country became war torn and I had the chance to go to, say, New Zealand, I would take it. Why? Because I have a son and I've got to put him in his future first. Does that mean that I'm going to be branded something when I go to New Zealand? Possibly. But I've got to take the rough with the smooth. But the thing is that I don't like seeing is people that let the logical factors go out the window. Well, instead of going, why did X amount of people come here? Why is X amount of people now living here in the community, and we have homeless people on the street and we have pensions that disappear? Instead of addressing the root of those problems, the scapegoat has been the immigrants. I think, again, with the UK government, I don't really want to say Scotland because in the past 45 years, I've seen more immigrants in Scotland than I have in all my previous years put together. And that's me no mincing my words, but I don't have a problem with that because a couple of years ago in Scotland they were saying that we had having rains every year. There was quite a stagnation where the population was the baby numbers weren't that high up. People come there contributing. I go to the hospitals every so often because of my health, and some of the doctors I have a for, and they're absolutely delightful. I don't have a real issue with that. The thing that really grinds my gears over in immigration is the factors of immigration, the things that actually cause them. People throw them out the window, and it's between our own government and the European Union. And you know as well, better than MD, I'm not a fan of Merkel. I think there's a lot of things that she's done wrong. There's a lot of things that I quite frankly think she's unforgivable. But I will say this for her. She had a big set of balls on her to turn around and bring in over 1 million people into Germany, regardless of how popular or unpopular it was. And sometimes I think to be a leader in any situation, whether it's a leader of a football team, a leader of a community, a leader of a country, sometimes you've got to be the bad guy for the right reasons. And that might sound crazy, but you know, who's to know, saying 20, 30 years from now, Germany might prosper for that.
Yeah, got that here. I got a good comment from Kelly and McLean. Said it's a sin. The poor bairns couldn't believe there was hardly any news coverage over the wars in Lebanon, Libya, Iraq, Syria, and Iran. And that's basically what it is. People say, well, why are they all coming here? Just look at yourself. Look at what your governments basically do. They are the cause of the migration. Most people that come here want to go back, but their countries are so badly bombed, there's nothing to go back to. And that's where the problem lies. Stop bombing those countries because they don't agree with you, or they don't want a what's the family called? They have all the national banks in a hand, basically. Rothschild's own bank, because they don't want that. Stop bombing and they will stay there. That's basically what it is. And don't blame the immigrants for coming over here. Blame your governments for bombing those countries that the people are coming out of here. So that's, yeah.
But I think it's bring independence though, because we would have the ability to turn and say, we're no longer bombing kids.
Exactly.
We're no longer bombing countries that are thousands of miles away, trying to build a better country for their own people.
Yeah.
And this is a factor that I don't like. I mean, we sit here and talk about Julian Assange and possibly maybe looking at towards the Hague for him to get a fair trial in. But right now we had a mass protest last year, the year before, where they didn't want to bomb Syria. Theresa May went ahead and bombed Syria. Then you had Tony Blair and all his cronies with Iraq. Quite frankly, I don't think there's enough politicians in jail.
But I mean, again, I don't think it's just down to bombing. I mean, bombing is obviously a major factor in all of this. And I think, again, in this panel, we all agreed that the whole refugee scenario is a risk because basically the government has gone kowtow with the Americans and the axis of evil, and they've been bombing basically anybody that liked, and we're going to just get 3 bombs down there, we'll be all right. And it's, I mean, that's not as bad enough. But equally, there's, I mean, Raymond, you said many want to go back to the home country when the home country is safe to go back to. Exactly. I agree with you. I'm sure many do. Many are looking for a better life. Now, this better life, contrary to what the populists would have you believe, is not based on social security handouts. Those are wanting to look for a better life. And better is always a case of, it's very subjective, where you feel, like what you were saying, Callum, where you feel you can bring up your way in the best. So the better life, these are folk that are wanting to work, contribute to society, and that's the point where I come back to my situation. I mean, I did not emigrate, effectively I emigrated to Germany when I was 20-year-old. I didn't emigrate as such, I just said, all right, I'm going to Germany for a few years and see how it goes. But I'm still here now, 30 years later. It's not a case of emigrating for a better life necessarily, it's a case of what you make out of it. You contribute to society, and again we know that in Scotland foreign workers make a large contribution to society. We're in a global environment now. 50 years ago, you wouldn't think about leaving your hometown, never mind leaving your home country. Nowadays, things are different. It's a global world. In some ways, globalization is not a good thing, but the ability to get to somewhere else and make your life somewhere else of your choosing is there. And if you are wanting to contribute to that society, then why not? At the end of the day, what does it matter where you popped out your mother as to where you choose to make the rest of your life?
Yeah, exactly. And
that's a good point.
Yeah, definitely. You still there, Colin?
I'm here.
Yeah, no, the screen froze. Your screen froze up.
Or did I shut up for 3 seconds?
Oh, there we go.
Be shutting up for 3 seconds.
Oh, you froze up again. But yeah, I agree with you. The thing is that one thing you always hear, they come here and steal our jobs. Usually, the people saying that are low educated people. I don't want to insult anybody, so I'm not doing that here. But and then you see somebody who has is trained to be a doctor or a surgeon, and there's somebody saying with no education whatsoever saying that he's stealing the jobs. or the other way around. It's people saying that I don't want to do this kind of work like cleaning or whatever, and then people coming over doing the cleaning jobs and they get accused of stealing the jobs. It's ridiculous in my book, and that's another thing that comes out with the populist groups as well.
Ryman, if I can jump in quickly.
Yeah.
And then you have this stealing jobs mantra. I agree with absolutely everything you just said. When this stealing jobs mantra is then given airing on mainstream media
Exactly.
as the gospel truth, because you're brought up to believe that what the media says is correct. You're brought up to believe what the BBC is correct. I mean, I remember the Cold War, the BBC was the beacon of truth in Eastern Europe. And you have Farage's new Brexit party promoted on the BBC wall-to-wall coverage. Then somebody watching it, I mean, I agree with you, we're not in any way denigrating anybody, but if you hear that, listen, you're going to start believing it.
Yeah.
The film, they're coming over here to take your jobs. If you actually look at it for what it is, again, no disrespect, the government in the European Union outsourcing mass work to countries for cheap labour. For example, China, Southeast Asia has a lot of low paid workers where they're exploiting the people, whereas if they kept the factories here and the work here, they would have to pay them a higher wage. It's many of these factors actually, and I'm not a socialist and I'm certainly not a capitalist, but a lot of these issues are capitalist related. And again, it's another logical factor that I find when I talk to people. It's more the scapegoat rather than addressing the root of the problem. You know, that the company profits and being able to put themselves into a new headquarters in a foreign country for they have to pay X amount of tax, they can save millions. They pay so low wages, therefore they save millions. They make greater company profits, therefore they make millions. As well, the full social mindset as well that I think in Scotland, it's kind of like it comes down to like clothes, where we live, where we shop for our food. People have this pretence arrogance and attitude where they'll kindly shite on their neighbour because they think, oh well, you work there, I'm a secretary and a lawyer, or oh you work in McDonald's, or you part-time Tesco, or you fucking shop in Aldi, or you go and get like neat stuff at the pound shop. That actually fuels and causes these things in society.
Exactly.
The social culture of how we think and operate as human beings needs to actually change to maybe how it was 50, 60 years ago, where you need to actually be grateful for what you have. Everybody's not going to be as well off as the next. That's just a sad fact of life. What we should be doing is actually addressing the problems at the root and working together rather than casting each other out for I'm not doing that job because I'm better than that. A job's a job. You should be satisfied that you get paid to do a job at the end of every week or the end of every month, depending on how you're paid.
Totally agree. Could not agree more, mate. Definitely.
Guys, I don't want to be a party pooper, but we're well over our time.
I was literally just about to say, if one of you guys want to let the audience know that we've got future events coming up,
yeah,
where they're going to be, how they're going to fall, and how they can be involved in them.
Yeah. I've got a list basically here written down from previous shows. The first, well, there was an event. Colin, did you look it up already?
No, I haven't. I've been busy, basically. Carry on with your event and I'll do a bit of research.
Well, first of all, there are a couple of All on One Banner events coming up. Let me just mention them first. On May 4th, there's basically their season opener event in Glasgow, and sizing up to be a massive event as well. Basically, it's the first event to keep the ball rolling from Edinburgh, from the Edinburgh Rally, and we need to make that a massive event as well. But then the week after that, there's a special event. The Welsh branch of All on One Banner will hold their first event for Welsh independence in Cardiff. So I would like to have anybody that is interested in going there, please do. Visit the site or allonOneBanner.com .scot, and just for all the information that you need for visiting that event. Would really recommend to do that and get the ball rolling in Wales as well. As soon as we can get this bloody union disbanded, then the better it is. So help our brothers and sisters in Wales as well. Then on May 25th, it will be the 3rd annual March and Rally in The Hague, organized by yours truly, from Netherlands for Scottish independence. It's, like I said, it's the 3rd event, and the 2nd event at the same location that we are now, that we were last year. Slight change on the marching route. We still come by the British Embassy, so that remains. But on what's that?
Sam will be happy.
Yeah, definitely. And now it's basically on part of the route. There's this antique fair going on, and so it's going to be diverted a little bit, but we still come by the British Embassy. And then the rally, we have quite a bit of speakers and musicians there, and more still to come. I can give you a couple of examples. We got Gabriel Sheridan that's going to speak as part of the youth of Scotland. Basically, what I wanted to present, and I was hoping to get more youth there to speak, but I wanted to basically say that the youth is the future of Scotland, and independence will be in the future. So that's what we want to go for. And the children, you should choose independence for your children. That's basically what it is all about in my book. If we and then next to that we got Patrick Rowling, a guy who spoke at a couple of rallies before, and also at the Hope Over Fear rally a couple of weeks ago. Come on, that was Patrick. Yeah, then I got musician Callum Carlisle. He's involved with Yes Book. I don't know if you guys heard of it, but he's involved with that. And he asked me if he could play at the rally, and yeah, sure. I said, sure, come on over. So he's playing. We got two guys that we all know very well. Can't think of his last name. Pedro. What's his name?
Mendes.
Well, what's that?
Mendes.
Yeah, there we go. AKA Captain Jack McSporran, and our good friend Dave Llewellyn. They basically are a music act, apparently. They're the Pirate Proclaimers, so they're going to be there. Also, somebody that's going to be there is someone that we know very well. Is our own Colin McPherson.
Yay!
And he did. He didn't even have to fill in a form and anything. So
he talks shit anyway.
Well, Colin, you were there the last 2 years as well. You want to say anything about the rally and why people should come over?
Yeah, I mean, I've been at the last 2 rallies, and they were both great events. I can't stress enough. I mean, we've had a couple of events in Berlin with German independence, and I think it is really important for 2 reasons that the independence movement shows, or is also shown, that we have solidarity within Europe. First of all, I know from the German Scottish independence events that we have had that folk in Scotland are made up, that we are standing there, in our case in Berlin, at the heart of Europe, and Alexanderplatz just a few weeks back showed our support for Scottish independence. In the words of Alan Smith, leaving the light on for Scotland.
Yeah.
And I know it is, for folk that can't make the rallies, it is good for them to see they have this international support, because, again, if you remember 2014, we were told, Europe doesn't care anyway. You can do it like Europe. Scotland, what are they? Not true. We have European support for Scottish independence. Incidentally, the deputy Bavarian Minister-President is currently in Scotland on a tour, speaking with politicians for the Scottish Government, speaking with businesses. He put out a tweet just when he was on his way yesterday saying, I'm going to Scotland. Scotland voted 62% to remain, and I'm going to Scotland to talk to folk to see what we can do. Now, he hasn't come out specifically in favour of Scottish independence yet, but there are a lot of German politicians that would support Scottish independence, and if it was then the will of an independent Scotland, of the people that live in Scotland, for Scotland to return to the EU. I'm thinking about Terry Reintke, for example, German Green MEP. We've got lots of others. We've got a lot of support within the German Green Party. We've got support through various parties in Germany, various parties in other countries. There was the famous open letter a couple of years back, signed by 50 politicians. The support is there for Scotland. And that is also what is important for these events like the Berlin marches, the Hague marches. We're not just showing that European politicians want Scotland as an independent country. We're showing grassroots. We're showing the folk that live in Germany. And with you, Raymond, it's just the same.
Yeah.
You have folk that stay in the Netherlands. Some of them are Scots, expats, immigrants, call them what you like. With us, it was the same. You also have folk that are Netherlands born and bred. We had folk, Germans, born and bred, showing solidarity with the Scottish independence movement. And that is important, because not only do we have the message going back to Scotland that we stand with you, we are also showing the message to our own politicians that we support an independent Scotland. So when Nicola finally names the date, hopefully we'll have a few more European politicians on our side this time who will actually be prepared to come out and say they support Scottish independence than we had in 2014. We'll have the media coverage because the media is aware of what is happening. I was called up by the local radio station just last week about Brexit. he wanted to do last Friday a big Brexit show, and he says, Colin, can you give us a few points? Now, the reporter knows me, so he knows Scottish independence. So he was kind enough to give me that platform as well. So I was able to get it out on the local media to say why we need Scottish independence. And that's why these marches and rallies in Europe are so important. And if you come over from Scotland, there's another side to it. If you go to Glasgow at the start of May, that's going to be hundreds of thousands of folk. You want to meet your mate, you'll be lucky. In The Hague, we've got a nice wee pub where we meet up afterwards.
Yeah.
Have a few pints. You know, the musicians there, have a bit of a jamming session. And you've got a bit more interaction with folk, a bit more coming together with folk. Smaller crowd, but a great crowd.
Yeah. And another...
One more event. Raymond, you said the first event is the All Under One Banner rally in the 4th of May. Actually, the first rally in Scotland this year is going to be on April the 27th. That's going to be Saturday week in Stornoway, organised by the Outer Hebrides Scottish Independence and the Yes Bikers. I know that Independence Live will be streaming a week on Saturday. A week before the Glasgow event, if you can get up to Stornoway, get up there. We always hear that up in the islands, they're too far away from Edinburgh, they don't really care. Well, show them in the islands that we want Scottish independence. And we've got groups up there working hard. We need to support them, so if you can get up there, go for it. Ultimately, we know that Nicola Sturgeon said many years ago now, not 2 years, if you have an appetite for Scottish independence, show me. So it is our duty as grassroots, no matter how frustrated we might be right now that the date has not yet been named, to get out in numbers. We don't have time to get tired. So we get tired and we stop going to the rallies, then somewhere along the line, it's all going to fizzle out. So get there if you can. There's lots of rallies coming up. There's a lot more All Under One Banner rallies coming up over the year. I'm going to be in Galashiels, for example. I'm going to do a wee stopover on my way back from The Hague. We have to get out there.
Yeah.
We have to get out in the streets, because one thing is certain. It's not going to be the politicians that decide on whether or not Scotland regains its independence. It's going to be us.
Yeah.
It's up to us to get out there, get the flags flying, show your support, and together we'll do that.
Well, the last thing I wanna say about the event in The Hague. Well, that's two things. It's just a couple of more names. One person that we had planned for last year was Martin Keatings from Forward as One, the group, and because of his health, he couldn't make it last year. He will be there this year. You will be speaking. We got a good friend of both of us, Colin, Tina Yuneman. She's going to play at the rally. A good friend, Pat Lee, will be playing. He will be speaking. Also, a guy called Andrew Duncan. He is involved. He's a member of SNP Inverness South, and he's been stewarding for All on One Banner as well. And he will be at the Hague rally speaking. We got more.
There's a great Philippine restaurant in The Hague, so if you want to get good Philippine food and go to an independence rally, The Hague's the place to go.
Definitely.
Simon told me today there's a good Mexican restaurant in The Hague as well.
Yeah. Funny thing is, it's called Havana. So it's Havana, and then it's a Mexican restaurant. What do you know? But it's good food, and it's not that expensive. So I would recommend. Well, we do.
I would recommend it because if you just fancy a wee weekend away,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
you're still working for Scottish independence, The Hague has always been a good rally up until now, and I, for one, I've been looking forward to it since Raymond announced it last year. I've had a few health problems myself. It was a wee bit touch and go for a while whether I could make it. I will now be able to make it in some shape or form, but I will now be able to make it. I've got my flights booked, I've got my hotel booked. You want to be there, seriously. That's going to be a great day.
One guy I want to mention. It's a guy that's not actively been involved with the event, but he was there at the first event, and he showed up at Ned Kelly's last year as well. It's a guy called Fred Gold. Why am I mentioning him now? He is playing at the rally, so that's good enough to mention him, of course. But it's a guy from England, and he is supporter of Scottish independence. But he also, for the last two events, he donated a spare room for people to sleep in, stay when they're staying over and during the weekend, to sleep at, free of charge, and he's doing that this year as well. So if there's a couple that would like to come over and make use of that, please contact me either on my personal account or through Netherlands for Scottish Independence. Don't put a post up, but please send a PM. One thing, and then I'm going to stop, but one thing I think the international events are so important for as well is something that happened last year. The first year that we did the event, we had about 200 people, including during the day, march and rally included. And last year there were about 60 people, I think, Colin, about 60. During,
I would say 100, but I'm the BBC.